Hello friend, it's Mark out on the back 40, and this episode is going to be all about the Tar River DRL grain drill. I'm just going to go over adjusting depth, adjusting seed rates, and maybe after I've used it for 2 years now, just kind of some of my thoughts, and I'll show you some of the things on here that I have a concern about. Okay, let's talk about depth control here a second. So what I want to show you is we've got it set up right now on the back of the tractor, and I have the link right here adjusted to the length where it's sitting perfectly level. Actually, even here's the level I was using. You can see that. So the frame of the machine is level, and the only thing touching the ground right now, which really is cement, are the discs. Okay? So if you can imagine that the cement is actually the ground, but it's not, all the disc would be level right now. Okay? So what I'm going to tell you is that what you do to adjust the depth of the discs is, if it's in soft ground, there needs to be something else for support, right? Like, okay, what is the next level of support for the machine to keep it from sinking into the ground forever and ever and ever? And that is the roll cage. So that is the next level of support. So if you can imagine, if this wasn't cement holding these up, it was dirt, and those sank down into the dirt, the next thing to catch on the ground would be the roll cage, and the roll cage does not sink in the ground because it's got support, right? It's got all those bars through it. So lots of talking, sorry about that, but I want to make sure it's clear. So the next level of support is the roll cage. So what you need to do to get the depth right is you'll be adjusting these up and down, which is linked to this rod here. And what is this? It's the roll cage. So for example, right now I have it set at about 3/4 of an inch of depth. And how do I have that? Because right now this is 3/4 of an inch from the ground, from the cement to the bottom of that bar on the roll cage. So I know that if these discs sink into the ground, it's going to catch the roll cage as this goes down. And how do I know how deep these are going to be? Because that right there is 3/4 of an inch from the ground at this point. Gosh, I hope that makes sense. I'm trying. If it doesn't, let me know and I'll try to explain it a different way, but that's where I'm going to stick with right now. So now the next question is, how do you adjust this if you want it deeper or more shallow? How do you adjust this? So let's go over that a second, but I got to move first. We're going to move these nuts on here. Now, when I bought this machine, I'm going to go over on this side. When I bought this, it had these neat little handles on it, right? Oh boy, those are neat. You just sit there and crank them and stuff, but it doesn't really work that well, because to crank these takes a lot. I have to stick a screwdriver in here and get leverage to turn them, and the one on that side over there broke. Like, it's just kind of soft cast iron with this rubber coating on it, and it broke. But that's not a big deal. I can just use a wrench on these. So what we're going to do is, and I even wrote it on here, and I hope this helps you, but what you do is you rotate these nuts clockwise to make deeper and deeper and deeper seed depth. Okay? So right now it is at 0. This roll cage is, I mean, it's hard to roll it right now because it's barely touching the cement. So what I'm going to do now is crank this up to the depth I want, which means I'm going to go clockwise. And once I get the distance from the bottom, one of these bottom rollers, when this one's at the bottom, well, I'll just actually show you. As soon as the bottom of this is the seed depth I want to the cement, that's where I stop. And then I'll pick up the video from there. I have finished the adjustment here. I had to go deeper because I set it to 0, and so I was going clockwise, which is actually, if you can imagine, clockwise is pulling this up, so it's tensioning the spring. It's getting shorter and shorter. It's pulling this wheel off the cement so that when those discs sink into the ground, into the soft ground, this disc or this roll cage is going to grab the ground, and this is what it's going to be floating on, which is going to be, for me and what I do, 3/4 of an inch. So it's 3/4 of an inch from the cement to the bottom of this right here. So that is my planting depth. That's the depth that I do because I plant these mixes, right? These mixes from Green Cover Seed. It's got some big seed stuff in it, and it's got some little seed stuff in it. And so some stuff needs to be deep, some stuff needs to be shallow. So I have found, I used to do about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. It seemed like a lot of the little stuff didn't pop up. So now we do 3/4 of an inch, and that seemed to work pretty well. So that's how you adjust the height. I hope that made sense. I'm going to do one more thing for you a second, maybe just to give you a point of reference for height, and then maybe you don't have to sit here on a piece of cement and do all this. Because a lot of you are going to be out in the field. You're not going to have a piece of cement to set this on. I just did that to help you understand how to adjust the height and then which direction these need to go. Because I think I read in the manual when I got this thing a couple years ago, I threw it away because it just didn't work for me. I think they had it backwards. I think they said to go clockwise to go more shallow, but that's not how it works. So just make sure that all you need to know is this, that you got to crank those nuts down clockwise to raise the cage, which puts, and by raising the cage, you're putting the discs further in the ground. That's really all you need to know. All right, just for a point of reference for you, you can see right on here I wrote 3.5 inches equals about 3/4 of an inch of depth, seed depth. I'm talking about from the top of this bolt, or nut, top of this nut to the top of the bolt is from here to here is 3.5 inches. So that's going to get you around 3/4 of an inch of seed depth. And I just kind of do that. Depending on the undulations of the ground, it'll be all different depths. And you can see what I did here too. I took this stupid handle off. It's just a pain in the butt putting a screwdriver in there and leverage to screw it around. So I took this top nut off, pulled that thing off, and put the top bolt on. Now I just use a crescent wrench. It's super simple. All right, so that is seed depth. Any questions, let me know. Okay, and now it is time to, so we have the height set. Now we have to calibrate the drill. And if you don't know what that means we're setting the drill settings so that it puts out the right amount of seed per acre that the mix calls for. So I have been buying stuff from Green Cover Seed. This year I did a custom mix. I did it completely what my goals were and what I wanted to have happen in the food plots. And I won't go over that now because we're talking about the drill, but I'll go over that when I plant. But here is the seed mix. Here's what it looks like. So it's a mix of, you can see there's sunflowers in there and some corn. It's actually a grazing corn. It's kind of a cool idea, but anyways. And then there's some smaller seeds. So there's a variety of seeds in there. So step number 1 when you're calibrating is which side of the green drill am I going to use? Am I using there's 2 boxes on here. One box is for big, physically large seeds, and one box is for physically small seeds. So because that mix has the biggest seed in the mix is corn. And so what I did is I actually put a little piece of corn in there, and you probably can't see, doggone it, but the gears down in there, you know, when that thing goes around in a circle, where you see that piece of corn, that's a little gear, and it goes around in a circle as you drive, and it grabs seed and puts it down the tube. That piece of corn is not physically fitting inside that groove on that gear. That is what the difference is to this one over here, which is the large seed drill, the seed box. So now the gear, I don't know if you can see in there, but there's grooves, and it's like a gear, and the teeth are bigger. And that piece of corn is actually fitting down inside the tooth. So which side am I going to use? I have to use the big side because it'll crush. If I do it on this side, because that seed is sticking out of that gear, it'll crush all the corn seeds, and all we'll have is the small seed stuff. So that's step number 1. We're going to do this. Now step number 2 is I already know, based on the mix I put together because of their super duper cool calculator, that I need about 21 or 22 pounds per acre of that seed going through these cups, going through all these things to get down into the ground. So how are we going to do that? Let's do that a second. What is the mechanism to adjust the rate? Well, there is a crank on this side of the drill for the physically large seed box, and for the physically small seeds, it's got a same crank like that, but over on the other side. So what happens is you turn this, and clockwise means you get less and less seed per acre. Counterclockwise means you get more and more seed per acre. And how it adjusts is if you watch that gear down in there where that piece of corn is, I am going to go clockwise, which means I'm making it smaller. See how it's moving away from us? It's moving in the direction away from us. So the amount of gear sticking out of there, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So every revolution, it grabs less and less and less seed. Now, if we go the other way, I'm going counterclockwise, you can see that more and more the gears are showing. So every time it goes around, it grabs more and more and more seed. So we just got to get this part right so that every time it rotates around, we get the right amount of seed into the ground. So here we go. Here we go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put seed in one of the discs. You can see there's 10 discs under here. I don't want to have to measure all those. I'm going to put a bag under this one disc right here and then do all the math. And I'm not going to put the math on until the end of the video. That's just for anybody who wants to see the math. I'll do it at the end. I'm afraid a lot of you will it's just brutal. So I'll do the math at the end. But what I'm going to do is pop this off of here. Normally this tube takes the seed down to this disc right here and it drops it right behind this little wedge so there's a little groove in the ground. So the seed is metered and drops out of here. So what I'm going to do is work this off of there and put this bag under there. But first thing I have to do is tear the scale. So this is just not a bathroom scale, a kitchen scale. So I put that on there, I hit the button here to re-zero it because I don't want to weigh the bag. And then I'm going to put the bag underneath that seed cup over there. And what I do is I rotate the cage 20 times, and that's the math, and I'll bore you with the math at the end. But I wrote on here what I need to do for this particular mix. I always do 20 revolutions because that's the way I have my spreadsheet set up. And when I put that in there, that means I need 0.37 ounces for one of those seed cups, just one of those, not all 10 of them, just one of them. And that will give me 22 pounds per acre, which is exactly what this kind of seed mix needs. So what I need to do right now is go back and forth and back and forth. I'm going to change the crank on here, fill this bag up after 20 revolutions of that wheel, and then I'm going to take the bag with the seed, I'm going to weigh it on this, and as soon as I get 0.37 ounces, then I'm going to tighten down this right here to lock everything in place. And now I can go plant the whole property and never even have to worry about it, because I know anytime I drop this, it's putting the exact right amount of seeds per acre wherever I drop it. So I'm going to go get that done here a second, and then we'll come back and keep talking. So all I'm doing is taking a cup of this seed. The bag broke, so there's some sitting in this box. I'm taking a cup of the seed, and I'm just going to stick it over and just kind of dump it over this one seed cup, because that's the only one I'm doing. I'm not planting yet. I don't know if you can see, it's bone dry here in Michigan right now. I mean, it's so dry, I can't even plant no-till right now. It's been so dry for so long. So I'm getting it all ready, though, so if it ever does rain, I can instantly grab that and go be done planted in 45 minutes and just load it in and go. So that's why I'm adjusting it now. Okay, so we've got the seed in there. We know we're going to mess with this, so we're going to grab our bag and we stick the bag. Boy, is this video making you dizzy. We're stick the bag underneath the cup because I pulled the hose off. And now what I do, and I'm not going to go through all this with you, but I go back here and I mark. Okay, here's this. You see this white sticker? It's a random mark, but I'm just going to call that the mark. So now I'm going to rotate this wheel 20 times. That 20 is a random number. I picked that number because I figured it would be enough revolutions to get a good enough sample size for accuracy. So 20 revolutions is what I came up with. You can use any revolutions you want. You just have to do the math. So all I'm going to do now is sit here and rotate this thing 20 times. You know, there's 1, 2, and you can hear the seed falling into the bag up there. 3, you get the idea. So I'm going to do that 20 times, pull the bag off and weigh it and see if we need more or less. All right, got the first bag, first try. Let's see, we're looking for 0.37. Ooh, man, we got to crank it way up. So we need a lot more seed coming out. Look at that. So more seed means that we go counterclockwise. So if I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rotations maybe. And now let's do it again. All right, our second try, looking for 0.37, 0.21. So that added almost a tenth, and we need more than a tenth more. So I did 6 cranks last time. I'm going to do like 10 cranks this time. So let's crank it open 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, I did 12. All right, now let's give it a shot. All right, don't make the mistake that I just made. I had this thing set on pounds, and I'm looking for 0.37 pounds per acre. It's not. It's supposed to be I need 0.37 ounces here, so I had to skip this to ounces. Look at this. I have 4 ounces in here. I need 0.37. I thought something just doesn't seem right. Like I have it cranked all the way open, and I'm not getting enough seed. What a doofus. So make sure you got all your settings on your scale correct. All right, now let's take a look at it. Still too much. I need 0.37. All right, let's crank it down. 0.40. Hey, that's close enough to me. Even 0.45 is close enough to me. What I was finding was happening is I had to crank it down so much that it wasn't letting some of the corn get through. I could hear it breaking the corn. And what I mean is, see how much, there's just a little bitty bit of gear showing there. And so a piece of corn or something, a bigger seed, isn't going to fit left to right in there. It'll fit up and down in the tooth of the gear, but then left to right was too tight. So 0.4 ounces per turn. That's going to give me a little bit more than 20 pounds an acre, but I'm okay with that because I probably got a little bit less than 4 acres. I might have a little bit extra seed, so I think it's going to be perfect. So there we go. So now we have the calibration done, right? We've got the depth done. Now we've got the calibration done. Now I'm just going to do a little walkthrough and kind of talk about what I have learned after using it. I've planted 4 times with this, which equals 16 acres. So this has planted 16 acres worth of stuff. So I would say, let's just start here. Cultipacker, worthless, but looks pretty. The little paddles there, these paddles push the dirt down. They're okay. They cover stuff up. I kind of cranked this bar with a pipe wrench so that it would put more tension on the springs, pushing down harder. So you can do what you want there. Roll cage works great. I already talked about how this is kind of a, the handle's goofy, but it works with a wrench. Back here, everything's good. I like this shelf here. I put weights on it because I feel like I need a little bit more weight on it. This is all good in here. I like everything there. Everything here is good. The adjustments are good. Yeah, I guess down on the discs, I don't really have any issues with the discs either. They all seem to work really well. The little scrapers on there work well. Here's a little issue here. There's a cap that goes on the end of this axle, and it's got a grease zerk in it, and the caps, both sides, look at this. Both sides have popped off. Here's one right here. See, here's the cap with a zerk that's supposed to go here and magically keep that lubricated. I guess I really don't care. I don't use it that much, but I haven't even lubricated the thing yet. I mean, 16 acres, that's just not that much. So really, I guess that's really all there is to say about it. There's not much more than that. It works good enough, right? I mean, there's a lot of loose nuts and bolts through this whole thing. It's put together with, you can see them. Just look at all the nuts and bolts on there. That's how it's assembled. It's not welded. But if you're only doing a few acres a year, they're not going to rattle loose, and you're going to be just fine. It looks like a little bit of rust. It sat outside all winter, this winter. A little bit of rust on some of that stuff, but again, maybe the rust will act like, Loctite. And it'll make it so that these don't vibrate loose. Nature's Loctite, we'll call it. So I guess that's all I got to say. So I think that's everything there is to know about this drill at this point. I would say the one thing that I need to go over now is the math. And there's a sticker on here that talks about the math, but what they want you to do is to put the drill down on the ground, drive 500 feet, lift it up, and then measure. And I just don't see why I have to set it down, drive 500 feet, and do that when I can just lift it up a little bit, rotate the wheel by hand in the comfort of my garage. So here we go. Let's go down and we'll do some math. I'm not sure that I have ever looked at this to see if it's right, but you should recalibrate everything yourself every year anyways. All right, so if you're sticking around for the math, here you go. And here is the brutal math of how we do this. Nothing fancy. I'm just pulled up the spreadsheet on my computer, and here we go. So I got two different ones here. I've got any seed drill in the Tar River DRL-072. If you're just looking for DRL-072, I'm going to skip right to it. Forget all the math. All you need to know is this right here. The 0.37 ounces that we were trying to weigh in that one seed cup for 20 revolutions, all you need to know is take your pounds per acre and divide it by 59.875. So let's just call it 60. So if you take, and I need 22 pounds per acre desired is 22. And therefore, if I take 22 divided by 59.875, where's the 59.875 come from? All this mumbo jumbo up here. If you don't want to go through all the math, don't worry about it. Just skip to this. That's all you need to know. But if you have a non-Tar River and you're wondering how to do seed drill calculations, here is a very rough walkthrough of it. Step one, go out there and measure the circumference in inches of the drive wheel. For the DRL seed drills, that's that roll cage. So if you take a tape measure and literally wrap it around the wheel, you would come up with 46 inches. But other ones might actually have a tire sitting off to the side or whatever is driving the mechanism. You need to measure how the circumference of that. And then you're going to have this formula right here, which is up here. So you're going to take whatever that distance was in inches and divided by 12, because it's 12 inches in a foot, so we're converting to feet, times 6. What's that 6? The 6 is how wide my drill is. But if you have an 8-foot or a 12-foot or a 20-foot drill, you would change that number from 6 to whatever the width is. And so that's how many square feet are covered in one revolution of your drive wheel. And then we divide that by 43,560, because that is what? Exactly. That's how many square feet are in an acre. So that is the formula to come up with this right here. Acres covered per revolution. Okay, now acres per 20 revolutions. Again, I did 20 because I was comfortable with that number. I felt it would be a big enough sample size, but you can do however many revolutions you want to do. But here's the formula. It's B3, which is what we just came up with. How many acres per revolution do you cover, times however many revolutions you want to turn the wheel on your drill as you measure what's coming out of that cup. And so that's how I came up with this number. For me, I picked 20. If you want to do 10, if you want to do 100, whatever it is, you change that number right there. All right. Now we get down to target pounds per acre. You put this number in. This is not a formula. You look on the bag. The bag tells you what you need. For me today, it's 22 pounds per acre. So I put 22 pounds in there. Now, what this formula here does is it converts everything to ounces per revolution. And here's the magic formula. Are you ready? So we're taking B5, which I feel like I'm playing Battleship with you here. B5, which is your target pounds per acre, times how many acres are covered in 20 revolutions, and then you multiply that by 16. So where does the multiple times 16 come from? That is converting pounds to ounces. Okay, so that's where we went from this 22 pounds per acre. Now we're getting down to ounces. And the reason I want to do ounces is because I feel like it's a more granular, more accurate measurement for that little bathroom scale. So boom, that's how you came up with that. Now, you might, because you have a bigger disc or smaller disc, I don't know how many discs you have in that 6 or 8 or 12 foot wide that you have. So put the number of discs that you have right here. Again, this is not a formula. I just put that in there. And now it's very simple. How many ounces per revolution of each disc do you need? It's basically, it's this divided by this. So that's what this formula is here. It's ounces per revolution divided, which the whole drill needs to put out 3.717 ounces for each revolution of the wheel. And I have 10 discs on mine, so I divide that number by 10. So I know that I need 0.37 ounces per 20 revolutions of the disc. Wow, is that brutal? I am sorry for the math and the detail, but some guys might, this might help you. I hope it does. Boy, that was rough. So thanks for watching. If you have questions, throw them down below. I'll do the best that I can. Thank you.